everybody. Thank you for joining me for another one-man review. Today I've got this little comics magazine printed by KUS, and I think that's what the magazine is called as well. KUS, it says Baltic Comics Magazine number 42. Um, this is something that when I ordered Ashes from Gareth Brooke, he sent me this because it has some of his work in it. And we've just started this kind of communication and he's finding all this cool stuff, and he had a copy of it, so he sent this along. So thank you so much, Gareth. I've never heard of this. It's a cool little anthology, and it's like number 42, and there's obviously been some since. I'm really restraining myself from going and blowing a bunch of money that I don't have, because I've had a very expensive summer with computer breaking and LASIK surgery and all this stuff. So I'm really holding myself back from going and buying the rest of these, but I'm tempted because it's a cool thing. So it seems like they're themed, which I like. It's kind of like that. What's that magazine? Scarf, the Scarf paper that Partners and Son sends me, where they have an obvious theme. So this one is scientific facts, and then they have a bunch of artists doing short works based around the theme. So I like that themed anthology. I like Fantagraphics Now and stuff for getting exposed to artists, but I think I liked this better because of the consistency of it throughout, like that focus. And then there's just a lot of artists I've never heard of who are really good. And even if I didn't like the art, like I pretty much found everything in here enjoyable to read. Like this one, especially because it's just people showing facts, but then talking about the nature of, fact and how the scientific process works and the undermining of fact and fake news society and stuff. It's like a really cool book with a lot of thoughtful pieces in it. Whereas like something like Fantagraphics Now, you'll find like a couple stories that you like and then a bunch of stuff that doesn't resonate with you. Like I found this enjoyable all the way through. There's definitely stories and artists that I like better, but mostly based on whether I like the art better or not. So I'll go through and show some of those. This is, and I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names. I'm sorry, but Agate Leopetre. So this one is, this guy goes to a doctor and he's like, "Hey doctor, I think I'm getting old. I'm wearing cargo shorts and all these different kind of signs of being old." And that resonated for me because like I turned 40 and I don't know, I just feel like I'm getting old in the last year. I can't think as well and harder to exercise and stuff. But man, I've been wearing beige cargo shorts my whole life, so maybe I just always been an old man. I thought that was cool, like skater stuff. I don't know. I guess that's old man stuff now, but I like that story. It's funny. I like the art. This one by Anna Vivare is really interesting. It's got this cool like pastel mixed media art in it, but it's a bunch of facts about how like drinking alcohol disrupts the rhythms of your sleep and stops your brain from healing itself in the way that it's supposed to during sleep. I didn't know any of that. As this book points out in many places, I shouldn't take that at face value. I should go actually research that and see if the artist is making it up or not. But if that's true, it's interesting, and the way it's all presented in here about how they metabolize the aldehydes and all that. It's interesting. I don't drink, so it's not particularly relevant to me, but it kind of makes sense about how it could make like this vicious cycle. So that was interesting. This one, I really like the art in it. This is by the artist Thomas Stanek, and then a writer, Zygmunt Bartonichik, but really like the art in this one. And then it's about this story. So this is a bit about how to be scientifically skeptical about facts. It's this story that you can see the article on the Sun webpage here about a penis parasite. British man 32 nearly died after parasite crawled up his penis and laid eggs as he swam in a lake on African holiday. And it's just like absolutely terrifying story. And then this little parasite's like, whoa, why is this writer throwing us under the bus, like making us even more scary by saying we crawled up this guy's dick? 1 out of 10 people in the human population live in places where they can be infected by this parasite. And it goes on to explain that really you can catch this parasite, just it can like go through your skin. It doesn't have to crawl up your dick. They burrow through the skin anywhere in the body, but then they do lay their eggs in the bladder. So it's terrifying enough already, and the story sensationalized it by saying it crawled up his dick while he was swimming. But I mean, even and here they actually have their sources, so that's kind of cool. It gives you something you can follow up on. So I like that one. It was pretty terrifying, and I like the ones in here that don't just present the facts. They not undermine facts, but they remind you that you shouldn't just take what they're saying at face value. That you should do your own research. Here this artist Sarah Firth has this a thing about exactly that, about conspiracy theory, and especially like in today's world, the post-truth, fake news world, like how the artist is struggling with that, and how society gives you these dopamine hits, and how hard it is to sift through everything. It goes through like kind of some of the social issues where we realize that science has in the past been used for negative purposes and will continue to be used for negative purposes, and so that's currently called science into question from like social studies and social justice type of critical theory outlooks on the world. Has like an anti-science in some sense, because they talk about the negative nature of science. And the artist is like, I get all that, and like I want to be on board with that, but still feels like, okay, look, we have to still believe in science. Like that scientific process is important and is intentionally self-critiquing, and if it does what it's supposed to do, all of those things will get sorted out, and hopefully sorted out quicker than they have been. And so I like that. I agree with that, and it is a tough kind of conundrum. It's one of those things in the world where there's no perfect answer, but definitely the answer is not to get rid of the scientific process. And even talks about how most people don't really understand what science actually is, like what a fact actually is, and that these things are always, the nature of science is that it's always under question, and what healthy skepticism is. Not that you're like, well, there's a 0.005 chance that it might be wrong. Like, yes, you should maintain that skepticism, and you should chase down that 0.005% and test your theory against it. But also, like, at some point, you have to be like, well, as best we know for now, and act on it. And that's always, a difficult thing, especially during COVID. Tori and I went through some things that it wasn't conspiracy theory. Like, she was pretty much paralyzed for 2 months after, like, she couldn't walk without twitching and stuff after getting the vaccine. And we saw other people that had those same reactions getting shut down as conspiracy theorists. And, like, well, how dare you say that because you're trying to scare people away from getting the vaccine? It's like, no, we both got the vaccine. I got the booster. She's not going to get the booster because she had an awful reaction to it. But we lived through it, for 2-3 months last summer, a year ago. Like, she could barely walk some days. And so it was really frustrating to see other people having that experience posed as conspiracy theorists. And I'm sure this artist, if they saw that stuff, would have thought it was conspiracy theory. And so it's like, but they acknowledge that this is really difficult because, like, you're hearing different stuff from all over the place. And even if you do your research, like, people are finding different things. And like, people told me and Tori to do our research, and or we did our research, and we were finding out about the spike proteins and how that could cause GBS, and that seemed to be what happened to her. And nurses and doctors were telling her that they were seeing a bunch of these patients that had all these symptoms, and no one knew what it was coming from. And like, that was firsthand experience. And but a lot of people thought that was conspiracy theory stuff. So they acknowledge that the difficulty of all that in this piece, Sarah Firth does. And I like that it ends with, at the end of the day, I keep coming back to what Carl Sagan said so well. Science works. It is not perfect. It can be misused. It is only a tool, but it is by far the best tool we have. Self-correcting, ongoing, applicable to everything, which I disagree with that. I'm not sure it's applicable to everything, but it has two rules. First, there are no sacred truths. All assumptions must be critically examined. Arguments from authority are worthless. Second, whatever is inconsistent with the facts must be discarded or revised. We must understand the cosmos as it is and not confuse it with how we wish it to be. The obvious is sometimes false, the unexpected is sometimes true. And as someone who's committed to the original meaning of skepticism, that you function with, this is the best I know now, and I will state it as like, I believe this and I have good reasons for it, but I'm willing to have that undermined. It was cool to see that in there, because I think more people need to learn to operate that way, and most people who think they're operating that way, myself included, probably 100% aren't. So it's good to have that reminder. So thank you, Sarah Firth and Carl Sagan. This has more of Gareth's work in it as well. So this is Gareth's piece in the book. You can see he's got more of his charcoal on napkin work, and you can see in this one how the napkin is folded to cause the impressions and to cause bleeding through, and he constructs the images out of those symmetries and the way things line up in different spots. And it's just so smart. It's such a smart use of material. And then he just says 700 degrees is the temperature the human body burns, and that's his fact. And you can see like Gareth being more minimal with his words and more poetic than a lot of the other people in here, and letting the materials do the work. Like, this is charcoal, you know, it's burnt ash, and that has a lot to do with the meaning of what he's doing, and I find that so smart. This piece here by Omar Chakik, I really like the art. I think that's how you say the name. Really like the art in this one, especially this first page, the design aspects of it, where it's like looking through a microscope at the bacteria. So this is just talking about bacteria, and on this page he talks about Leeuwenhoek, which jumped out at me because Leeuwenhoek is one of Tori's favorite scientific figures. He was the first guy to really start looking at bacteria through microscopes. I believe he called them animalcules, tiny little animals, and they say that in here, that they were the tiny animals and plants that Leeuwenhoek discovered. But he was the first guy to go around looking through things, and he was he wasn't a scientist. He was just kind of an amateur, and it took a long time to have his works accepted. It's a really interesting story that Tori told me about, and I like that. I think the artist did this intentionally, that it's got the dog taking a shit here, because one of the things that Leeuwenhoek did is he got so excited about things, he just wanted to look at everything under his microscope. So he was looking at like his semen, he was looking at diarrhea. I mean, he was just so curious that he was looking at all kinds of gross stuff and making notes and making drawings of all of it. So it was cool. I like that. I like the art in that one, and I like to see, and they acknowledge like Leeuwenhoek is kind of obscure. I remember one of the things that early on in my relationship with Tori is I went and walked around Berkeley, because I graduated from there, and we just took a trip to the Bay Area, and I was showing her there's a big complete T-Rex in the skeleton in one of the science buildings there, and then she saw the microbiology building, and she really loves microbiology, and so we went in there, and they had a collection of old microscopes, and including some original Leeuwenhoek devices, and she was just so geeking out and excited about that. And I thought, oh man, I'm so lucky, this beautiful woman who's like smart enough to be geeking out about this guy's tiny little microscope and telling me about how he looked at diarrhea. So yeah, this story is cool. It brings a lot of fond memories. Really excited to see Stacy Gagoulas in this. I saw one of Stacy Gagoulas' pieces in an issue of Fantagraphics Now and was blown away by it. Like, who's this artist? What have they done? I think he's working on a graphic novel, but this is the only other thing I've seen so far. And again, just great comics, great like symbolic. This is one of the things I responded to in the Now piece. Use of symbolism intertwined with the narrative to really make a powerful statement. Just, you know, awesome sense of design, awesome artist. Yeah, so really happy to see another Stacy Gagoulas piece, and looking forward to something more long form. This is also really cool because the story, it starts out talking about like if you put a string in a box and shake it up, it's going to knot itself 100% of the time. And the story is a little piece about entropy and how humanity seems to be kind of this entropy battling entity that we try and organize things and make meaning out of it. And that's a huge part of the Philosophy of Information by Luciano Floridi. And that's pretty much the philosophical worldview that after 15, 20 years of engaging in that kind of stuff that I've come to adopt. I've found Luciano's work to be the most revealing and accurate stuff. And so it's cool to see another artist talking about entropy and like the human part of that equation. And so really enjoyed that. Huge fan of Stacy Gagoulas as an artist and a thinker, apparently. And then this one here by Christopher Sperandio is really funny, and I looked him up on Instagram, and very politically left-wing, but a lot of cool experiments where I don't know if he's scanning old comics and changing the dialogue or if he's doing the art and as well. I'm not sure, but the Instagram's full of things that look like old comics and look like someone using new means to mimic the look of old comics, like to the most accurate extent that I've seen so far. So I'd be really interested in talking to Christopher Sperandio and seeing what's actually going on with his work, and if he is doing this all from scratch, like what the process is. I think this is someone that from the reproduction side of things would be really, really interesting to talk to, because this is really well done and really authentic feeling. And then the stories itself are funny. It's just scientific facts from the natural world, but it's all a bunch of animals talking about like different kind of animal sex. 99 or 94% of giraffe sex is male on male. And again, who knows if this is accurate, but I'm hoping. And we're here where it says apologies to Frank Johnson is where I think maybe the art swiped. Giraffes have 4-foot long penis, but sex only lasts a few seconds. Only 3% of birds have penises. And so it's just all this like dick related sex talk. Hippos like to shit and piss on each other before they have sex. So I don't know. That was just a funny one. But the production got me as well. Really, really curious about it. And then they have in the back here all the authors like little bios and the links to their Instagrams and stuff. So I'll try and post the links to a bunch of the artists that I liked Instagrams and stuff as well, because I think these are all people worth following up on and trying to find more of their work. So thank you, Gareth, so much for sending this along with Ashes. I'm definitely at some point going to have to save up some more money and go get myself a lot of this stuff. And it looks like KUS as a publisher publishes a lot of small comics like this by a lot of these artists as well. So I don't know, at some point I'm gonna have to just splurge and maybe do like a KUS publisher review or something like that. I don't know. I really like this. This is one of the more exciting things I've seen in terms of an anthology. So yeah, thanks, Gareth. I really appreciate it. One of the best ways that you can support what we're doing here on the channel is to support the books that Sean's putting out through Living the Line. The first book that he put out is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. It's a collaboration between Dave Sim and myself. The book was recently nominated for an Eisner Award in the Best Reality-Based category. It's a deep dive into the artwork and methods of Alex Raymond and the mystery surrounding his death in a car crash. So if you haven't grabbed that already, please do. There's also Yokoyama Yuichi's Plaza, which is a totally intense manga by an artist who has somehow figured out how to distill manga down to its purest essence. This book was successfully funded on Kickstarter, but if you missed the Kickstarter, you can order it through any comic store, any bookstore, Amazon, any place that you would normally get your graphic novels from. The Abolition of Man is a 5-issue mini-series done by myself and Sean in collaboration with the Midjourney AI. What you're seeing here is the cover to issue 1 and the first couple pages of issue 1. This first issue, we fed it an essay by C.S. Lewis, and this is just the imagery that the computer spat back at us. Issues 2 and 3 are a narrative, starting with the story that I wrote when I was 21, and then Sean's going to write issue 3, picking up where I left off. In this one, I'm kind of trying to force the AI to give me the images I want, and then doing some tweaking in Photoshop to get these kind of colored looks on it. For issue 4, we're turning the task of writing over to the AI as well. So the AI has written the script, and then we've just put that into the Midjourney AI, and it's turned out art. The script and the art is some of the absolutely most horrific stuff I've ever seen. We're a bit scared to even publish this issue. And I don't have any art to show for it yet, but Sean and I have decided to do a 5th issue of Abolition as well, because we have someone who we're really, really excited to have on board, providing an essay for that 5th issue that we'll illustrate, and we'll announce more about that soon. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.